Good afternoon, everyone. So, this is the third unit, that is thermal power plant. So, first we will see the questions on remembering. First question is, list the fuels used in thermal power plant. Following types of fuels used in thermal power plant: natural gas, coal, oil, geothermal energy, nuclear fuel, waste heat from industrial process, biomass. These plants are fueled by waste from sugarcane, landfill methane, and municipal waste, etc. Solar heat, blast furnace gas. Second question, list the classification of fuel firing. The two common methods used for burning the coal solid fuel are stroker firing, in that traveling grate stroker, again in that chain grate stroker and bar grate stroker, and second one is spreader stroker. Second is pulverized fuel firing, single retort stroker and multi retort stroker. Understanding. In this understanding, the first question is, explain briefly the working of thermal power plant. Coal received in coal storage yard of power station is transferred in the furnace by coal handling unit. Heat produced due to burning of the coal is utilized in converting water contained in boiler drum into steam at suitable pressure and temperature. The steam generated is passed through the superheater. Superheated steam then flows through the turbine. After doing work in the turbine, the pressure of steam is reduced. Steam, after leaving the turbine, pass through the condenser, which contains the low pressure at the exhaust of the turbine. Steam pressure in the condenser depends upon following rate and temperature of cooling water and on effectiveness of air removal equipment. Water circulating through the condenser may be taken from the various sources such as river, lake or sea. If sufficient quality of water is not available, the water coming out of the condenser may be cooled in cooling towers and circulated again through the condenser. Blade steam taken from the turbine at suitable extraction points is sent to low pressure and high pressure water heaters. Air taken from the atmosphere is first passed through the air preheater, where it is heated by flue gases. The hot air then passes through the furnace. The flue gases, after passing over the boiler and superheater tubes, flow through the dust collector and then through economizer, air preheater, and finally they are exhausted to the atmosphere through the chimney. So, following factors are to be considered for the selection of site. Availability of coal. The coal should be available in sufficient quantity nearer to the plant at low cost. Ash disposal facilities. There must be sufficient space to dispose of large quantity of ash. Space requirement. Sufficient land should be available for construction of plant at low cost with future expansion scope. Nature of land. The site for the plant should have good bearing capacity to withstand the dead load of the plant. Availability of water. Large quantity of water should be available for drinking, condensing, for disposal of ash, and as feed water at low cost throughout the year nearer to the site. Transportation facilities. The site should be connected by suitable transportation lines such as road and rail to bring the machineries, coal, etc. Availability of labor. Cheap and large number of labor should be available at the proposed site as large number of laborers are required during the construction of plant. Public problem. The site should be away from the towns to avoid the nuisance from smoke, fly ash, etc. Nearness to the load center. The site should be nearer to the load center to reduce the transmission cost and losses. Initial cost of the plant. The nature and magnitude of the plant to be handled. Necessity of future expansion of plant. Next question is, explain different basic materials required for thermal power plants. Following basic materials are essentially required by the thermal power plant: feed water, coal, cooling water, water for ash disposal, SO2, air. Feed water. Feed water is the water circulated through a closed circuit of the power plant, which is further converted into steam in the boiler. For example, a plant of 100 megawatt capacity may require nearly 500 tons of water per hour to be circulated through the system. Second one is coal. The coal is required for converting the feed water into the steam in the boiler. A sufficient quantity of coal is required so that the plant should run without any stoppage due to the coal shortage. Nearly 1500 tons per day coal is required for 100 megawatt capacity plant generating 5 kg per kilowatt hour of steam. Third one is cooling water. The cooling water is required for condensing steam coming out from the turbines. Nearly 25,000 tons per hour quantity of water is required for 100 megawatt plant. Water for ash disposal. The large quantity of water is required for disposing the ash. Nearly 5 kg of water is required per kg of ash disposal. Fifth one is SO2, low sulfur content coal. We should always require to have low sulfur content coal because on burning such coal generates SO2 and it is highly poisonous to human and animal health and as well as for the crops. Nearly 1.8 tons per hour amount of SO2 is coming out by burning the coal containing sulfur up to 1 to 1.5% in 100 megawatt capacity plant. This SO2 should be properly removed from the exhaust gases through improved technology. Air. Air is generally required for the combustion of the fuel as well as required for cooling the water in cooling tower. Nearly 1200 tons of air per hour for 100 megawatt capacity plant. In addition to this, nearly 25,000 tons of air per hour is to be required for circulating in cooling tower. Next question is, explain the different methods of coal handling systems. Following are the different coal handling methods are used: transportation by sea or river, transportation by rail, transportation by ropeways, transportation by road, transportation by pipeline. So the first one is transportation by sea or river. The coal can be transported from the mines to the power stations by means of ships or large boats through ocean or river. The unloaded coal from the ship can be either sent to the storage yard or directly to the conveyor system which carries coal directly to the combustion hopper. Transportation by rail. In this case, the railway is used to transport coal from the mines directly to the power stations. Most of the thermal power stations will receive the coal from rail transport. The coal from the railway wagon is taken to the power station and is either delivered to the storage yard or close to the point of consumption. Transportation by ropeways. It is the most efficient method of transporting the coal from the mine to the power station. It is particularly used when the distance between the power station and mine is less than 10 kilometers. The major advantage of such system is it supplies the coal continuously and free from workers strike, which is common with rain transport. Next is transportation by road. The coal can be transported from the mines to the power plant by means of trucks, tippers, tractors, etc. through road, but it is used only for small capacity power stations. The major advantage of this type is that the coal can be carried directly into the powerhouse up to the point of consumption. Next, transportation by pipeline. In this method, the coal in the form of slurry is directly supplied from the remote mines to the strategically located thermal power plants through pipelining. This method is most efficient one. It supplies the large quantity of coal continuously without any problem and loss. This system is costlier than all other systems but most economical in operation. Next question is explain methods used for coal storage. The coal can be stored by using one of the following methods to reduce the chances of oxidation and combustion. Stocking the coal in heaps, underwater storage. First one is stocking the coal in heaps. Following steps are used while stocking the coal in heaps. The ground used for stocking the coal should be dry and level. Generally, concrete floored area is used to prevent the flow of air from the bottom. The coal is piled on the ground up to 10 to 12 meter height. During storage of coal in heaps, the coal should be compared in a layer of 15 to 30 centimeter in thickness by means of bulldozers and rubber tired scrapers. This effectively prevents the air circulation in the interior of the pile. Then the pile top should be given a gentle slope in the direction in which rain may be drained off so that the water will be removed, but it should not be drained so rapidly as to cause serious washing. The sealing of stored pile may be done to avoid oxidation of coal after packing an airtight layer of coal. Underwater storage. The possibility of low oxidation and spontaneous combustion can be completely eliminated by storing the coal underwater. The dock basins can be used for storing the coal underwater. Explain the principle of overfeed and underfeed. First one is overfeed stroker. Principle of operation. The principle of operation of overfeed stroker is shown in the figure. So here at the bottom part grate is there, and over that ash, and over that incandescent coke, then green coal, and above flame. So primary air is supplied at the bottom of the grate. Explanation. The coal is supplied on the top surface of the grate. The ignition plane lies between green coal and incandescent coke. The air enters from the bottom of the grate under pressure. The air is heated while passing and cools the ash, and grate comes in contact with incandescent coke. At this stage, the oxygen reacts with carbon to form carbon dioxide, and the water vapor entering with the air reacts with coke to form CO2, CO, and free H2. Upon further travels through the incandescent region, some of the CO2 reacts with coke to form CO. Hence, no free O2 will be present in the gases leaving the incandescent region. The raw coal continuously supplied on the surface of the coke bed loses its volatile matter by distillation due to the hot gases diffusing through the coke bed. Therefore, the ignition zone lies directly below the raw fuel undergoing distillation. To burn the combustible gases, additional secondary air must be fed at high speed into the furnace to supply the needed oxygen. The combustible gases then burn completely in the furnace. Next question is, explain with a neat sketch chain grate stokers. So, chain grate stoker, it consists of flexible endless chain which forms a support for the fuel bed. The chain travels over two sprocket fields, one at the front and one at the rear of the furnace. The front sprocket is connected to a variable speed drive mechanism. The coal bed thickness is maintained all the time by index plate. This can be regulated either by adjusting the opening of fuel grate or by controlling the speed of the stoker drive motor. So this is the diagram of chain grate stoker. So here adjustable fuel gate, open over fire or secondary air parts, primary air, ash, exhaust, boiler are present as shown in the figure. The primary air enters from the bottom of the grate as shown in figure. It is divided into several compartments, and secondary air is supplied from the top to have complete combustion of the fuel. The rate of burning of this stoker is 200 to 300 kg per meter square per hour when forced draught is used. Next question, explain with a neat sketch unit and central pulverizing systems. First one is unit system. In this system, the raw coal from the bunker is supplied to the feeder as shown in figure. Hot air is passed through the feeder to dry the coal. The dry coal is then transferred to the pulverizing mill to pulverize the coal. The primary air is supplied to the mill to carry the pulverized coal to the burner, where the secondary air is mixed to have complete combustion of the fuel. So here in this diagram, raw coal bunker, then it comes to the feeder. To the feeder, preheated air or flue gas for coal drying primary air is coming. Then it is coming to the pulverizer. Then from the pulverizer through the separator, the particles are going to the exhaust fan. Exhaust fan removes the particles, and then it comes to the burner and then furnace, and then preheated air is supplied from the secondary air. Central system, second one is central system. A central system as shown in figure, the raw coal from the bunker is supplied to feeder, where the primary air drives the coal and transferred to the pulverizing mill. The pulverized coal from mill is transferred through alternative flue gases to the cyclone separator, where the coal is separated and flue gas is sent back to the mill. The coal is then supplied to the burner feeder from where it is mixed with the primary air and supplied to the burner for the combustion. So see in this figure, so here raw coal bunker is there, feeder is there, pulverizing mills, alternative flue gas for coal drying, primary air fan, cyclone, central storage bin of pulverized coal, burner feeder, burner, preheated air, secondary air. Next question is, explain briefly pulverizing of coal. The pulverization of coal means coal is powdered to the required size for the burner for the combustion of fuel. The efficiency of the pulverized fuel firing system mostly depends upon the size of the powder. The pulverized coal is obtained by grinding the raw coal in pulverizing mill. The various pulverizing mills used for pulverization are as follows: ball mill, hammer mill, ball and race mill. The pulverization coal involves the following: drying the coal, grinding the coal, separation of desired size coal particles. Next question, explain with a neat sketch mechanical feed water treatment. So here in this treatment, the first process is sedimentation. In this process, the water is allowed to stand still in big tanks so that solid matter settles down. These solid matters are then removed periodically or continuously. The clear water is then drained out from the tank surface. Second process is coagulation. In this process, some coagulants like aluminum sulfate, sodium aluminate are added to impure water, which on reaction removes the minute colloidal suspensions easily. So see the figure of pressure filter. So this is the pressure filter. So it consists of rate flow indicator, pressure gauge, raw water inlet hole, sight glass, venturi nozzle, alum pot, raw water, backwash water to waste, pressure gauge, filter water to waste, air relief valve, fine sand bed or filter material 40 to 50 mm thick, about 1 mm size, graded layers of gravel total 40 to 50 mm thick to 2 mm size, strainer heads, backwash supply and filter water outlet. Third process is filtration. It consists of passing the water through filters such as a bed of fine sand and then layer of gravels, etc., as shown in the figure. The suspended matter adheres to the filter material, leaving the water clear as it drains from the bottom. The beds must be washed periodically to remove the dirt that collects in the voids of the filter material. In case of pressure filter, the water is forced through the filter by means of a pump, whereas in gravity filter the water flows by gravity. Next question is, explain with a neat sketch ball mill. So it is also called as race mill. So it is a ball mill or race mill. A simple arrangement of race and ball mill as shown in the figure. It consists of upper and lower races and filled with steel balls in between them. The raw coal from the feeders passes between the rotating races again and again until it has been pulverized to the desired degree of fineness. The pulverization is completed by crushing, impact, and attrition between grinding surfaces. Hot air is supplied by forced draught fan to pick up the powdered coal dust and enters into the classifier where required size particles are discharged to the burner and oversized particles are thrown back to mill for further pulverization. So this is the diagram. It consists of hot primary air supply, stationary upper race, rotating classifier, springs, fine discharge, raw coal feed, grinding elements, hot primary air supply, balls, rotating lower face, gear, worm, etc. Next question is, make use of the sketch, explain the general layout of modern thermal power plant. So this is the general layout of modern thermal power plant. So it consists of ash storage, ash handling, ash lining plant, boiler, coolant handling plant, coolant storage, steam boiler feed pump, superheater, flue gases, economizer, air preheater to the chimney, flue gases, air, feed water, flue gases, main valve, turbine, generator, three-phase supply, superheated steam, exhaust steam, condensate, extraction pump, condenser, low pressure heater, high pressure heater, circulating water pump, cooling tower, river or canal. The general layout of a thermal power plant is as shown in figure, and it consists of the following four circuits: coal and ash circuit, ash and gas circuit, feed water and steam flow circuit, and fourth one is cooling water circuit. The above circuits consists of coal storage, coal handling plant, ash storage and ash handling plant, high pressure boiler, boiler accessories such as air preheater, economizer, superheater and feed water supply unit, condenser and condensate extraction pump, cooling water and water circulating pump, turbine, generator, draught system and boiler chimney. Next question, make use of the sketch, explain ash handling system. For ash handling, the modern ash handling systems may be used. These are gravity system or hydraulic system. Pneumatic or vacuum system, electrostatic precipitation system, mechanical dust collector, gravity system or hydrostatic system. In this system, ash is carried with the flow of water with high velocity through a channel and finally dumped in the sump. This system is divided into low pressure system, high pressure system. Low pressure system, a simple construction of such system as shown in figure 3.20. In this system, a trough or drain is provided below the boilers and the water is made to flow through the trough. The ash directly falls into the troughs and is called away by the water to the sumps. In the sump, the ash and water are made to pass through a screen so that water is separated from ash. This water is pumped back to the trough for reuse and ash is removed to the dumping yard. The ash carrying capacity of such system is 50 tons per hour to a distance about 500 meters. So this is the low pressure system diagram. So here it consists of ash sump. Sumps are used alternatively for settling out water troughs, boilers, water, and then one standby trough to the permit repair, sump, boilers, water troughs, water. Next question, make use of the sketch, explain gravity system. In this system, ash is carried with the flow of water with high velocity through a channel and finally dumped in the sump. This system is divided into low pressure system, high pressure system. So already you have studied the first one, that is low pressure system. So now we will go to the second one, that is high pressure system. So this is the second one, that is high pressure system as shown in the figure. So it consists of high pressure water nozzle, furnace nozzle, high pressure water ash stroker, high pressure water nozzle, cast iron walls, main sump, trough carrying water and ash. In this system, the hoppers below the boilers are fitted with water nozzles at the top and on the sides as shown in figure. The top nozzles quench the ash while the side ones provide the driving force for the ash. The cooled ash is carried by the water to the sump through the trough. The water is again separated from ash and recirculated. The ash carrying capacity of such system is as large as 120 tons per hour and the distance covered is about 1000 meter. Advantages of gravity system. The system is clean and healthy. It can also handle molten ash. Working parts do not come into contact with the ash. It is dustless and totally closed. Discharges the ash to a considerable distance. High ash carrying capacity. Next question. Make use of the sketch. Explain electrostatic precipitation system. Electrostatic precipitators or dust collector system. It is also called as Cottrell precipitators. The basic elements of an electrostatic precipitator as shown in figure 3.22. So here source of high voltage ionizing and collecting electrodes, dust removal mechanism, shell to house the elements, and here it consists of 440 volt 50 hertz 3 phase supply, control cabinet, high voltage transformer, rectifier, 4080 kV DC, insulators, clean gas, emitting electrode, collecting electrode, dirty gas, collected dust. Basic elements of electrostatic precipitators. The precipitator has two sets of electrodes insulated from each other that maintain an electrostatic field between them at high voltage. The field ionizes dust particles that pass through it, attracting them to the electrode of opposite charge. The high voltage system maintains a negative potential of 30,000 to 60,000 volts with the collecting electrodes grounded. The collecting electrodes have a large contact surface. Accumulated dust falls off the electrode when it is wrapped at a regular interval mechanically. A wet type of this unit removes dust by a water film flowing down on the inner side of the collecting electrode.